So you've just heard from your primary care provider that you need to get more exercise. Well, what does that mean? What type of exercise? How long? How many days a week? Does mowing the lawn or walking the dog count? If you're like a lot of people, including me, you probably have questions about exercise and how to make the most of it. Personal trainer and strength and conditioning coach James Naso is here to answer all of those questions and more. Don't go away. Being Well starts right now. Production of Being Well is made possible in part by Sarah Bush Lincoln Health System, supporting healthy lifestyles, eating a heart-healthy diet, staying active, managing stress, and regular checkups are ways of reducing your health risks. Proper health is important to all at Sarah Bush Lincoln Health System. Information available at sarahbush.org. Dr. Ruben Boyajian, located at 904 Medical Park Drive in Effingham, specializing in breast care, surgical oncology, as well as general and laparoscopic surgery. More information online or at 347-2255. Rediscover Paris. Our patient care and investments in medical technology show our ongoing commitment to the communities of East Central Illinois. Paris Community Hospital Family Medical Center. HSHS St. Anthony's Memorial Hospital, delivering healthcare close to home. From advanced surgical techniques and testing to convenient care for your family, HSHS St. Anthony's makes a difference each and every day. St. Anthony's, where you come first. Welcome back to Being Well. I'm Lori Banks, and today we're talking all about exercise with my guest, James Naso from the Body Club in Charleston. Thanks for coming by.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
I realized you were actually on the first series of Being Well about 7 years ago, so I apologize it's taken 7 years to get you out. Well, I started this show off by saying your doctor has said, James, Lori, you need to get more exercise. And we hear that, but then sometimes it's just left at that, and we're left to wonder, well, what does that mean? And that's why we have you here today. So what does it mean? Exercise, physical activity?
Well, I think it's important that you understand the difference between exercise and physical activity. I say this a lot, and sometimes it sounds like it's contradictory, but it makes sense if you understand it. Exercise is physical activity, but physical activity isn't necessarily exercise. And what I mean by that is exercise is physical activity done in such a manner that it actually places a stress or stimulus on the body, and the body has to adapt to that stimulus. So for example, if somebody was to take a casual stroll with their dog around the block, that may not necessarily be enough of a stimulus for that person to gain any type of health benefit from it. They may not, affect the cardiovascular system. They may not increase their ability to use oxygen. Now, if that person maybe is obese, clinically obese, and it's very difficult for them to walk around the block, then maybe that is a strenuous enough stimulus. But for most people, they have to understand the difference. And being active, getting out and moving is a good thing, especially since today's society, we really don't do a lot of that. We have more sedentary lifestyles. A lot of our job requires us to sit most of the day.
We're sitting right now.
In front of a screen or a camera or whatever it is. So the idea here is we have to make sure that we are out there being physically active, but doing it in such a way that it's going to put that stimulus on the body so that the body will adapt and
So, what would some of those stimuluses be?
Well, it can be a variety of different things. I mean, you have the more traditional things like, going to the gym or a health club and doing some sort of resistance exercise with weights or, weight machines. You also have such things as going out to the track or jogging around the block. And then you have some more non-traditional things where people might be in certain sports, like for example, like a Volk march. It would be a non-traditional where people are actually organized and they get into these competitions and they do things to exercise. Or you've heard of these events such as like Tough Mudders, which are not just jogging, you have obstacle courses. So there's a lot of different things that would qualify as exercise if the stimulus is great enough. So you have the traditional and the non-traditional. And I've noticed it seems like in the last 5 to 10 years, a lot more of these non-traditional things are becoming more and more popular. And they're even creating more of these things. And so I find that people are becoming more interested in doing exercise programs, and that's a good thing.
So once you okay, so we know the difference that, just walking the dog around the block, it's good, but it's not probably going to get you the health benefits that the doctor probably wants you to get. The next thing, I guess, would be, what is your goal? Because that's going to determine the kind of activity you're going to do. So you're a personal trainer. Say you have just a regular person that comes in, maybe someone in their 40s, who just really wants to, become more physically fit and see the health benefits. What kind of exercise do you recommend for that kind of person program?
Well, first we'd want to sit down with that person and find out what their goals are. Many times the doctor has sent them out with the message, hey, you need to start exercising. Well, is that coming from, a doctor that specializes in cardiovascular health? Is it an orthopedic surgeon? Did you have knee trouble? So we have to kind of define what it is that they want, what they're looking to do. When someone comes in and says, hey, I just want to get more fit, usually what that means, and I'm speaking just in common terms, is they want to improve their cardiovascular fitness level, they want to reduce body fat, they want to become more mobile, they want to be able to do functional things every day, like go up and down the stairs, pick up their grandkids, play with their kids, have more endurance. So it's kind of a combination of a lot of things, but I like to use the term, we have to peel the onion a little bit. So we sit down with that person and say, hey, what exactly did your doctor say? And what were you seeing the doctor for? And was it, oh, it was for knee trouble. So you're talking about a possible knee replacement. So if that's the case, maybe we need more muscular strength. So we kind of find what it is exactly that the doctor might have sent them in for, and then what it is that they're looking to do. Some people come in and they don't come in because their doctor sent them. They may have a class reunion in a few months and they're saying, hey, I want to get in shape. And usually I translate that as, hey, I want to look better because I'm going to be in front of my peers that I haven't seen and my classmates in several years. So it can mean a lot of different things. But generally speaking, body fat, reduction in body fat, better cardiovascular health, being able to move better, those are kind of the big three. And I find that it's somewhat specific a lot of times to age. We get a lot of the older or seniors saying, I really don't care what I look like, I just want to be able to move, I want to be able to stay in my home, I want to be able to avoid having a hip replacement. For somebody more middle-aged, it's, hey, I want to look like I did in high school, I want to reduce body fat, my wife or someone says I'm not looking good in my clothes, or that kind of thing. So, and then the younger ones that come in, usually it's more sports performance, I want to play my sport better, and that kind of thing. So
I think the question so many people have is, how many days a week do I have to do this, and for how long? Because I've been involved in exercise for 25 years, and it has changed from 3 days a week for half an hour to like 6 days a week. What is the recommended number of days? And I know it depends.
Yeah, it's kind of a loaded question. Yeah. I mean, they went from, in the 1980s, saying just get out and do something, even if it's just gardening, a few days a week, to saying you should do something at least 6 days a week. I mean, I think the ACSM current recommendations is 150 minutes a week, if it's moderate exercise, and 75 if it's very vigorous exercise. As a general rule, I like to see people doing something every day. Now, that doesn't mean real vigorous every day, but it depends on your goal. For the average person, if they go and exercise 5 to 6 days a week, and they want to call taking their dog to the park and running around with the dog on one of those days is kind of a recovery day, that's fine with me. I don't have any problem. I think we get into trouble when we are too sedentary.
Yeah.
And that's what these recommendations are trying to do, is get people out, get them moving. As a general rule, though, I think a balanced approach for just the average person would be 2 to 3 days of resistance training exercise, and then 3 to even 5 days of some sort of exercise that works on flexibility and cardiovascular conditioning. I mean, those are just general recommendations, but I think if you do that, you'll get a lot out of your body and you'll remain healthy, because it really does take some time to make sure that we do the proper things we need to do to stay healthy and stay fit. Most people do better maintenance on their cars than they do
on their bodies.
I mean, they can tell you when they need an oil change or tire rotation, but some people, they don't view that with their bodies, they think.
So we want to have a balance of cardiovascular, strength training, and flexibility. So it's not a good thing to just lift weights all the time or just run all the time. You've got to have that combination of all of those.
I think for the average person out there, I think you do need to do different things, and not the same thing all the time. when we were talking about physical activity and exercise, the body's real good at adapting. So it can adapt to anything over time. And so you constantly want to make some small changes every 2 to 3 weeks just to kind of tell the body, hey, this is just a little different. So it can continue to adapt and continue to make the progress and make the gains. So for example, we were talking earlier before we started how there's people that do the same walking routine every day for years. And that's great that they're getting out, and I want to commend them, and we want to build off of that. But if you walk the same route at the same pace every day of every year, you're basically at best going to maintain your current fitness level, and you never will improve it.
Right.
And so unless you change, the pace at which you walk, the distance at which you walk, or make some sort of change to some of those variables, the body won't ever adapt further. So I guess if you're satisfied with your current level of fitness, that's okay. But I recommend that people change the stimulus. And you said earlier about, is it good just to lift weights? Again, it kind of depends on your goal. I mean, if somebody is trying to develop muscular body mass and they're trying to reduce body fat, maybe a few more days of lifting weights would be recommended. If somebody is more interested in cardiovascular health or lowering their blood pressure or, cholesterol issues, then maybe a little more cardiovascular work would be warranted. Or even just the weekend warrior that's going out there and playing golf that wants to make sure that they have, enough flexibility and mobility to be able to swing a golf club. So maybe some more work on mobility and flexibility. And those are individual things that can be, changed, variables that can be adapted.
So when you're working out, let's talk, we'll break it down first into cardiovascular, metabolic stuff. When you're exercising, how do you know if you're working out hard enough or too hard? Where is the happy medium in there?
Well, your body will tell you if you're going too hard. I guarantee you that. Most people, as a general rule, have a tendency to work below maximal and even below submaximal. If we're talking about cardiovascular, you want to base it off of heart rate. I mean, we measure intensity in cardiovascular training by maximal heart rate. And there's a few different equations you can use, but I do want to say most people aren't even using them. Like there's the Cooper and Carvonen method where you take like 220 minus your age, and that gives you a max. And depending on your level of fitness, that can or can't be really that accurate. But as a general rule today, what I see is a lot of people are using technologies that monitor heart rate, that count steps and calories and give you instant feedback. We, at our facility, we use those and we encourage those technologies because they're real time, they're accurate, and we can get a good sense of where your heart rate is while you're doing this and how to base recovery strategies around that. So if you can have those technologies and you can afford them, and they're pretty reasonable now because a lot of people are using them, we encourage you to use them because they even have programs built within those technologies where you can determine what your maximal heart rate is based on your age, your fitness level, and they do like these little fit tests, and it'll give you a range to work within, and so we encourage you to do that. And those are even programmable to, hey, is my goal body fat loss? So if it's body fat loss, then you would be working in a certain range of submaximal heart rate. If it's more, let's say, anaerobic conditioning and you want to burn more calories metabolically, it'll be set a little bit higher. So those are really good technologies, and we encourage people to use them. From a safety standpoint too, if someone's new to exercise and maybe they don't know how to figure what their max or submaximal exercise should be cardiovascularly, these monitors are a great way to do it because they do a lot of the work for you, and you could look down and say, hey, I'm supposed to be walking within 135 to, let's say, 140 beats per minute, and I'm working at 155. So therefore, they might have to slow down their pace. And so it's a real good thing. I really encourage that.
I have one. I really like it. I mean, I'm the kind of person, I like that feedback and those numbers. It's fun to look at it at the end of the workout to see how fast you went, where you went, and what heart rate zone you were in. So a lot of those, as you said, you can program for different kinds of things.
One thing I'd like to add to that too is I've just noticed in the last 5 or 6 years that the technology is actually a really big encouragement to people who are starting exercise. I have people that come in that have some of these technologies that they're using, and they come in, of course they're on the wrist, and they say, oh, yesterday I only walked, X amount of steps, and I usually walk, 5,000 more steps or 500. So it kind of gives them an idea to be more active. And so anything that will encourage them, I want to
those reminders.
Yeah, and it's a great thing. I think it's a really good thing, and it's a motivator. So that's one area where I think the technology is really helping people, along with the feedback you get. So it's really a good thing, where otherwise you may not know how many steps you took or what your average heart rate was when you were exercising the day before. So
it's kind of fun when, depending on the program you have, you may get a monthly readout or, email that says, here are how many workouts you had, and you look at all those calories that you burned, and I kind of think, wow, I should be that big. But, it's kind of, it's kind of neat. You can see, I have, that was the week I was on vacation. I didn't do anything.
Well, nutrition goes along with that too.
Yeah.
And if you can kind of use those technologies and get an understanding of, hey, I'm doing this activity level at this heart rate, but then also try to be diligent on healthy eating and lifestyle, you'll see the biggest amount of change. And I think some people need to realize that nutrition is a huge part of it. And you don't have to be a nutritionist necessarily. It's just one of those things where we know that soft drinks and candy and dead calorie products like that are not really good for you. And if you just limit them or even eliminate them from the diet and replace them with more healthy, nutritious things, it'll go a long way to helping you reach your goals, especially if it's body composition change.
And I've been in that trap before. As I said, I've exercised for years and years, and I've had years where I was probably physically fit, but I was heavy because, I worked out so much, I'm going to eat that. And then you kind of, if you think about it, it's so counterproductive. You put all this effort in, and then you're eating, and it's just canceling.
Well,
you just did.
Yeah, you're rewarding yourself with the very things that put you in the place that got you there in the first place. So, I've heard that over the years. Well, I exercise or I work out so I can eat that. And what I always try to tell people is no, because of the fact you're exercising and putting a greater stimulus on your body, you really need to eat even better because your body has a greater need for nutritional support because of the stress you're putting on it in the form of exercise. And that's kind of takes some people back because they think, no, that should be just the opposite. I should be able to eat whatever I want. And I said, no, it's not that you're doing this so you can do this. It's you're doing this over here so you need to do more of this over here, which would be, goes along with a healthy lifestyle. So.
I wanted to talk, we talked about to gauge if you're working hard enough or not hard enough when you're doing cardiovascular work. Strength training, lifting weights is another thing we need to do. How do you know if you're working hard enough when you're lifting weights?
Well, again, like I said, you'll know if you're lifting too much. That's when we get injuries and things like that. In weight training, intensity is measured by the percent of your one repetition maximum or a repetition maximum. You'll see, I know they do this here at Eastern at the ATP lab. When someone starts, they'll do either a sub-max rep or a max rep to kind of base the weight percentages on. So for example, if someone comes in and their one rep max is 100 pounds in a certain lift, they will adjust that and say, okay, we're going to start you out at 70% of a 1 RM, which would be 70 pounds, and you do so many reps with it and that kind of thing. So it's really based on a percentage of maximum repetition. Unfortunately, if you take someone who's untrained and they come in off the street and they do a 1 rep max, that's really not good because you're loading their system and they're not used to that. So a sub-maximal repetition, like 5 repetitions. Let's see what you can do, and then you can kind of base repetitions on that. That's a pretty good way of doing it. For the average person, though, what I try to tell people is make sure that you can take something that you know you can handle for a prescribed number of repetitions. And what we usually do at our place is we start people out with low intensity, especially if they don't have any training experience before. They're a novice, they have less than a year or no training experience at all. And then we build off of that. So we give them something we know they can handle for X amount of repetitions, and then they progress from there.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Because your average person, they want to go in there and just do as much as they can, and then they leave so sore and they can't move,
they don't come
back.
So if you're a person like, the old, you do 3 sets of 10, say, bicep curls. By the time you're to that last set, it shouldn't be like you put the weights down and you're like, oh, that was easy.
No.
When it gets easy, that's when you need to add more weight, correct?
Yeah, if your goal is 3 sets of 10, that's a recommendation. And that 10th rep on the 3rd set, you're completing and it's not really challenging, it is time to increase the weight. It really is time to increase the weight. Because again, you want to keep challenging the body, because what will happen is you will just maintain your current level of strength if that's all you do. And there's some people that go in, they do the same weight, same repetitions, use the same machine, and we get back to that same thing of there's no variety and the body gets used to it. And it's not bad to maintain, but you know, you want to constantly improve. And in theory, you should, no matter what your age, consistently and constantly be able to improve your fitness level.
That's what I was going to ask. Do you ever get to a certain age where you are just maintaining, or can you, if you're in your 70s, can you continue to make incremental improvements in your fitness?
Well, in my opinion, we take the approach of you always can improve, no matter what your age. And I've had people come in that were as old as 88 years old. And again, you have to look at it, relatively speaking, to the person you're working with. So if we know that, you know, being able to functionally move and get around your house is important, and they're doing that easier, we know we're improving.
Yeah.
But yes, in theory and also in reality, they've done studies, they've showed that even elderly people can increase their strength even at 100 years old. So you can always improve. Now, does the body age over time? Yes. I mean, are you going to be the same you were when you're 20? Probably not, okay? But the thing is, you can still improve. And so we get a benchmark, we kind of test and evaluate where you are at that current point, and then we build off of that. So if you could do 3 sets of 10 with, you know, 15 pounds, and now you're at 17 pounds, well, that's a 2-pound improvement. So that's a good thing.
All right.
It's a real good thing.
We've got about 3 minutes left, and I want to bring this up because as I'm sitting here, I have a little soreness in my rear end from things I did 2 days ago. Soreness is sometimes part of the result of exercise. It can be good, and it can be bad. So what level of soreness is normal, and when do you know, ooh, I really overdid it, I need to maybe back off a little bit? What's your gauge for that?
Couple things about soreness. It's not unusual to have soreness if you've had a higher intensity workout. That's just the body's response to exercise. However, if that's inhibiting you from doing your every normal day activities, then you probably overtrained.
Okay.
And there are symptoms of overtraining. Excessive soreness, and not being hydrated enough can cause soreness. Overworking can cause soreness. When you change your exercise routine, it's not uncommon that you get a little soreness because the body's unaccustomed to it. But we've had people come in our place before and they can't even move because they did an exercise program early in the week by themselves, and they really overexerted. So that's not good. When you have excessive pain, not good.
Like you can't get up your own steps very well.
And if you're working off of percentages, you know, heart rate percentages or a repetition max percentage, you shouldn't have that problem. You really shouldn't have that problem. And if you get with like a fitness professional or someone who can help you give you a little guidance, and there's a lot of things on the internet and a lot of good resources out there, you shouldn't have that trouble. What I see is the excessive soreness usually comes from the people who, number one, are working on their own or are doing some really insane things.
Yes.
Like, I'm going to do, you know, 500 push-ups today, and I'm going to do, you know, and I'm going to run 3 miles or do something. I mean, it's just way too much for the body. And you, again, you will know if you did too much.
But
little soreness isn't bad.
Yeah,
though.
but it's just like tenderness. Like you know, my triceps are a little sore today from something 2 days ago.
And you did something that you were unaccustomed to, and it was changed, and that's okay. But if you can't straighten out your arm, or you're lifting a milk jug out of your refrigerator, and you have to do this because you're so sore, then that's too much.
Okay.
That's really too much.
We've just got about 1 minute left. What advice do you want to give to people when it comes to exercise?
First of all, exercise should be fun, it should be safe, and it should be based on exercise science. And so be careful where you get your information from. Get it from sound sources, and make sure that when you do it, you're not overexerting, you're following the rules, and the main thing is this no pain, no gain is not true. There should never be pain. Everyone comes in and tells me, no pain, no gain, right? I say, no, that's wrong. You really want to make sure you're not hurting yourself and you're helping yourself. But do it consistently, and you'll find that the benefits you get from the time you put in are well worth it, because I just know from my own personal experience that I've been exercising my whole life, and it's allowed me, as I continue to age, to be functional, live life to the fullest, and do all the things from a physical standpoint I want to do. And I want to continue that well into my senior years.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too. I want to keep going as long as I can.
Yeah.
James, it's so great to have you back. We won't wait 9 seasons to have you back again. Thanks so much for coming in and giving us some great exercise advice.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Thanks.
Okay.
Production of Being Well is made possible in part by Sarah Bush Lincoln Health System, supporting healthy lifestyles, eating a heart-healthy diet, staying active, managing stress, and regular checkups are ways of reducing your health risks. Proper health is important to all at Sarah Bush Lincoln Health System. Information available at sarahbush.org. Dr. Ruben Boyajian, located at 904 Medical Park Drive in Effingham, specializing in breast care, surgical oncology, as well as general and laparoscopic surgery. More information online or at 347-2255.
Rediscover Paris.
Our patient care and investments in medical technology show our ongoing commitment to the communities of East Central Illinois. Paris Community Hospital Family Medical Center. HSHS St. Anthony's Memorial Hospital, delivering healthcare close to home. From advanced surgical techniques and testing to convenient care for your family, HSHS St. Anthony's makes a difference each and every day. St. Anthony's, where you come first.